Right, I've glued together the two pieces of the horizontal stabiliser, so that'll go there in due course, and I have to trim around these corners. And the vertical tailplane, glued together the three pieces there, which will go about there. So need to cut a slot into this sheet here. So I've marked that out, so I'll be cutting that. And then the strip that goes in front of the vertical tailplane, this piece here, what I'll do is I'll only glue that in place once I've fitted the vertical fin. Right, here's the wing being slid in. I can't do it with one hand, so I'll have to show you stages. Okay, so there we are, there's the wing slid in. So I guess it's necessary to pack out the bottom, and I guess apply glue after it's in. I didn't apply anything whilst sliding it in. I've measured the distance from the tip of the wing over here to the back corner, and it's 46.5. So I measure it again on the opposing side, and it's come out perfect. So it's perfectly square, and you'll notice that just here where the ailerons go, you've just got the sort of the wing, or where the edge of the aileron is going to be, just standing a couple of millimetre outside the fuselage edge. So that's all worked out perfectly. I've not had to adjust anything. I don't want a see-through canopy because it means you have to make the figures and the seats and the cockpit underneath, and it's not a scale model, so there's no need to make it perfect. So I've done this before with other models. I've just painted the inside of the canopy with grey primer, and what I'll do is I'll paint the framing over the top and around the edge later on. And what I've done is I've put a number of little blocks on top of the fuselage here to actually mount the canopy cover like that. So that fits pretty well now, and it won't need to come off again once it's fitted in place. So what I'll do is I'll simply glue that in place. And okay, here's the tailplane fitted. Very straightforward. Just glue these two pieces together and lay the tailplane on flat. I did check to make sure it was on the same horizontal plane as the wing, and it was, so I could just sit it flat there. And then the vertical surface, you have to cut a slot in the top of the fuselage here to fit this bit, and then it drops down into the slot and sits on top of the horizontal surface. So again, when I did that, I put the square there just to make sure it was good, and it just fitted fine. So that's those two things done, and it's coming on. I think I probably still need to sand more off the corners here to make it more round than square. It's always a bit tricky doing that, you know, you sort of worry about sanding it off too much, but I think it would look better to take a little more off. Right, I've done a bit more sanding around the canopy cover to get that to fit nicely. I actually glued some strips of wood on here to raise it up a little bit, so that's okay. I've been doing some sanding around the fuselage edges, just to round them off a bit. And the other job is these side cowls. Now the way to make these is just cut them out from the bigger piece with a pair of scissors to get them roughly to shape, and then I just trim it off again with scissors to get the edges here, so you've got a straight sided piece and not something with a curl on it. And then to do the front, I used a little sanding disc in a Dremel to actually get that to that sort of shape, and that worked fine. I think they look okay, and they are coated with a clear covering, which I didn't realise until I started using the Dremel on it, and then the covering started to come off. So you do need to peel that covering off, and then when those are fitted, they fit somewhere on there. I think the idea is that you put in some triangular stock strip or something on the edges there to actually attach it on, but I'll be attaching those after I've covered. Okay, so once these are glued in place, obviously there's a bit of a gap here, so I'm just going to use some scrap balsa to actually fill that gap. Okay, here are the two side pods, straight up, ready to be attached. And then the servos, all you have to do is just cut a shape out of the lower fuselage there, and I've got the servo arms sort of in line with the join here, which matches the drawing. So position the servo so that the wire comes out this end, and that makes it easier to feed through underneath this gap here into the fuselage. And then these are just glued in. I've just glued them in with PVA, and the next job is just to fill in this slot here, which I'll just do with some scrap balsa, and then I'll be doing some covering.